Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for standing by. Now, at this time, participants are in a listen-only mode. And to ask questions during any of the question and answer sessions, just press star then 1 on your touch-tone phone. The conference is being recorded. If you have any objection, you may disconnect. And now I'd like to turn it over to your host, Mr. Leland Milstein. Sir, you may begin when ready.
Great. Thanks very much, and thanks, everyone, for attending today. Today is the third Thursday webcast, the third of the month. The third Thursday webcast series is a bi-monthly webcast held at the lunch hour. The trainings leverage local successes by amplifying to a larger audience 2 model organizations' methods, materials, and approaches. Sessions are planned to last no more than 1 hour, with 2 presenters speaking on the same topic from slightly different perspectives, each for 10 to 15 minutes, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of questions and answers. This session is approved by the ISA for 1 CEU hour and by SAF for 1 CFE Category 2. If you haven't already given me your certification number, please email me after the session. Also, most state landscape architecture boards require only a certificate of completion, which ACT can provide to anyone who requests one, so let me know about that as well. This is a program of the Alliance for Community Trees. Please consider joining if you are not a member. I want to thank our sponsors for today, the USDA Forest Service and the Home Depot Foundation, and also our presenters, who I'll introduce in just a second. Today's session is off-season projects for tree planters. To everything, there is a season, and in the world of community forestry, planting season is an incredibly busy time. We've all just gone through it. The hot days of summer, starting now, present a perfect opportunity to pursue new, non-planting projects for which there may not be time during the fall, spring, and sometimes winter. Many groups take advantage of this period to advance urban forestry in their communities through creative volunteer outreach and educational programming. Here to tell us a little bit about that today, first is Meredith Borchardt, who graduated from Luther College with a double major of biology and religion. She later earned an MS degree from Iowa State University, doing a research project on the effects of mowing and fertilization on diversity in a new prairie reconstruction. She is currently a field coordinator and program manager in community forestry and roadside programs with Trees Forever in Iowa. Really enjoys the people she works with there, both the staff who come from many different backgrounds and also the volunteers who are motivated individuals that really want to improve their community and the environment. She likes coming at projects from both an environmental angle and a community improvement angle and seeing how those 2 things can come together. And we are going to hear more about that right now. Thanks for being with us, Meredith.
Thank you, Leland, and thanks to everyone who's joining in. For the next about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be exploring a fun and educational and really a low-cost way to engage volunteers in the hottest time of the summer, July and August, when it's not a great time to plant trees, and that is through a temperature measuring activity. Just a little bit about where I'm coming from here to start with. I've been on staff, as Leland said, at Trees Forever for about 10 years, and we just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year as a nonprofit organization. Our headquarters are in Marion, Iowa, and we work primarily in Iowa and a little bit in Illinois. Our mission is to plant and care for trees and the environment by empowering people, building community, and promoting stewardship. The basics of this temperature measuring activity is really just recruiting volunteers to go out in their community with laser thermometers to take paired temperature readings in the sun and in the shade. It's a great activity to involve youth, especially. We did this temperature measuring exercise in Des Moines, and I know we had a grandmother that worked on this with her 2 grandkids. They enjoyed it, had a great time. I'm in the process of organizing one for this coming August at a county fair here in Iowa, and that will be on the youth day of the county fair. So we'll be recruiting some of the kids that are there and asking them to participate. Really, any age of volunteers will work for this activity. And the best time to do it is the hottest time of the year, July and August, any time from like noon to, say, 3 or 4 o'clock. when the sun is high in the sky and the days are warm. And you could do it in a single day, take readings in a single day, or you could arrange it so it happens, say, over 3 or 4 days or a week's time. We chose 5 types of locations in Des Moines to do the readings. We chose streets, yards, parks, which included school playgrounds, sidewalks, and parking lots. And I know many of you are probably calling from different regions here today of the country, and so use your imagination a little bit. There's probably other locations that would work well in your locality. And in terms of the how, it's really a simple activity. You just use the handheld laser thermometers. They have a little trigger, and you basically point and shoot. It sends out a little laser beam and returns back really quickly a temperature reading. These laser thermometers retail only for about $40 or $50. You could find them at any kind of a Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards type of store. And you could just have one thermometer that you use with the group, and they could go at different times. Or if you had 5 to 10 of the thermometers, you could send them out, check them out to a number of volunteers, and they could be simultaneously hitting different parts of town. So in terms of the setup here, there's not a lot that you need to do. One of the things, however, is to get some kind of a simple form that volunteers can record their temperature readings on. This was the form that we used in Des Moines. It's just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it's got a little bit of instructions on the top there and some sample or example readings in the middle, and then the bottom of the page and the entire back of the page was just blank grid where they could fill in their temperature readings. And certainly you could do this electronically. People could use a PDA or do this electronically and collect the readings, but the gist of it is you need to just be able to tell if it's a sun or a shade reading, and then location. And you might choose to divide up city council districts or quadrants of the community, or urban versus suburban, or do your locations in a little different way. But you need to have some kind of a form that volunteers can fill out their temperatures. And then secondly, organize some kind of a report back time when all of the volunteers who have participated are coming at the same time, and that's your chance to discuss the significance of those readings. So visuals are a great thing to have at that report back time. We were able to get this giant, 2 feet by 2 feet map of the city of Des Moines that we had up, and we just picked out some of the temperature readings here. So the sun readings are with the red Post-it notes, and the shade readings with the green, and so you could see that we were fairly spread across the city there. I also did large Post-it notes for those different 5 types of locations that I talked about. So this is where I recorded actual readings as people brought them in. What I did is just take the average of all of those sun readings, which you see here are in red, and then the average of all of the shade readings, which are in green. And so the average difference there was 27 degrees. That was parking lots. And then I also highlighted the most dramatic reading of those paired readings, which in the case of parking lots here, you can see that 39 degrees was the most dramatic reading. So somehow, quickly try to summarize. This definitely could be done electronically too. You could do an Excel spreadsheet and just project that up, and Excel could do lots of calculations for you as well. But the bottom line is really just to quickly summarize those temperature readings, and then invite the media to come to that report back time. It's really a pretty understandable and simple concept, to just see the numbers, the difference in temperature readings that shady areas provide as opposed to sunny areas. So invite them to come. Also invite elected officials to come and give them a platform to speak about why they have supported policies or supported funding for urban forestry in that community. Likewise with sponsors, you can invite them to come and give them a chance to speak. In Des Moines, we had a lot of funding from the Home Depot Foundation that year, And so we invited a local Home Depot store manager to come, and they were able just for a few minutes to talk about why the Home Depot is supporting urban forestry efforts. So it's a good chance for sponsor recognition. It's also a great chance to promote your upcoming activities, whether they be planting events in the fall or maintenance days, mulching days or something like that. Try to really capitalize on and harness the enthusiasm and excitement of the volunteers that just took those readings and give them some other activities that they can participate in. Along the way, as they're taking temperature readings, encourage those volunteers to take photos. It's so easy to take photos anymore on your cell phone or a digital camera, and you can really get some pretty dramatic images in different parts of your community. You can find spots that are really void of trees that really need to plant trees, and you can also find some of those parts of the community that have a nice canopy and that you'd like to have your whole community look like. So really, all along the way in doing this temperature measuring activity, you're trying to build your case for the need to plant and care for trees. So one of the things you might also talk about at that report back time is the heat island effect. Particularly if you're in a large urban area, we may not use that in a small community in Iowa, but if you are in a large urban area, you can show a slide like this and just talk about how our urban areas have a concentration of built surfaces, the roofs, the parking lots, streets, and the sidewalks, and how all of those surfaces tend to absorb heat and hold it and release it back. And so those areas are, sometimes 5 to 7 degrees warmer than a rural area that would be more vegetated. If you're taking readings in residential areas, you can talk about the shade and the temperature difference, but also work in how trees increase property values. And likewise, if you're in a retail business district, that's a good time to talk about the benefits of trees in terms of shoppers staying longer and spending more money in those areas. Another great one, I'm sure we're all experiencing road construction season right now, and it's a good time also to talk about how shady streets, like the slide on the left, are going to need to be resurfaced less often, and so the costs to maintain that street are less than a street that doesn't have any shade. And really, I think ultimately you get into a conversation about the quality of life and what kind of a community, what kind of homes and neighborhoods do people want to live in there, what kinds of places do people want to work and go to school, ride their bikes and walk. And so it's just a great time to talk about future planning in that community. Where do we really need trees? Also talk about caring for trees. If we want large shade trees, we have to first start by planting those, but then we need to care for them and do good maintenance so that we do have these towering shade trees along our streets and by our schools and by our homes. So it's a great time to talk about maintenance as well. And those are the slides I have. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Thank you. If you need your line open now, please press star then 1. Please record your name. That'll be needed so you know when your line is open. Again, one moment now.
Great. Thank you, Meredith. And while your people are thinking about questions, I also want to let you know that you can ask your questions over the Internet if you're not comfortable talking on the phone. Through that Q&A tab there at the top of the screen, you can type in your question, and I will ask it over the phone for everyone to hear. While people are thinking about that, I wanted to ask you, Meredith, from the pictures at the beginning, it looked like you actually got a really diverse and wide-ranging group of volunteers to participate in this project. And so I was wondering what kind of advice you'd have about reaching out to volunteers during the summer and how that's different from working with volunteers and reaching potential volunteers during tree planting time.
Yeah, I think one thing I hope that people are thinking about involving youth, because this is a great activity to involve youth. So one kind of obvious thing is that you can't work through the schools in the summertime when school is out. So you just need to work through local volunteer committees, newspapers, certainly putting things on websites, all of those strategies would be good. And it is a different time. Some, volunteers that like to do tree plantings, they're accustomed to spring work and fall work to plant trees. So this is a little bit of a different time of the year. So if you can still reach volunteers at, say, May or June plantings for an activity that you line up in August, that would be another strategy to talk with them then.
Great. And sort of on the flip side, did you have any success in reaching kind of a new audience because of maybe the kids who were available and looking for something to do during the summer who then got involved in other Trees Forever activities afterwards? Yeah,
it was really a fun way to reach, especially some youth. This is an activity that needs to happen, during the day, so they wouldn't typically be able to participate if they were in school. It's also a time that kids visit grandparents, and they have different schedules, and so it was a good way to bring some new volunteers in. And then, like I say, you want to be ready to let them know about fall plantings and other ways that they can continue to be involved.
Great. We have a question here on the computer. They say, nice jobs, creative way to keep volunteers interested. And specifically with this project, were the plots selected on a scientific survey method or based on volunteer discretion?
This time they were based on volunteer discretion. You certainly could do it either way. We did make sure that, roughly we knew if they were going to be, say, in the northwest part, then we had a volunteer who was in the southern part of Des Moines. So we just kind of roughly made sure we were covering the community, but there wasn't any kind of assigning of location, but you certainly could do that.
Great. And do we have any questions on the line? On the phone?
No, we have none on the phone lines at this time.
Okay. Here's a comment, which is that another listener has used a personal UV meter to add an additional dimension to the info that you were getting. So that's another idea for people.
Great.
And one more question for you about the project. How did you wind up tying it in to, I guess, the results? How did you wind up tying them into your project later in the year?
Well, we used it as a media event, I think, just to draw attention to the need for trees and tie that with, upcoming not only that fall, but some of the broader goals that we wanted to accomplish in Des Moines. You could tie it with, canopy goals. If you had citywide canopy type goals, I think that would be an appropriate thing to do as well. I think in terms of long-term, what you could tie it to, again, is coming back to the care and maintenance plan. We immediately think about planting trees in those parts of towns that didn't have trees, but I think equally important is the care that we're providing to the trees that are already there and, maximizing those trees' lives and their size, so we're really getting the great shade and all of the benefits that those trees can provide.
Great. Thanks. Are there any other questions on the line?
No, none at this time.
All right. Well, if people think of them as we go, we'll have another chance to ask Meredith later on. I think in this case, we are going to move along now to Jen. Thanks very much, Meredith.
Welcome.
So up next from the great state of Delaware is Jen Bruler. She's the Assistant Director of Urban Forestry at the Delaware Center for Horticulture. She co-develops and implements local initiatives such as a free tree program, urban forestry management and advocacy, and statewide canopy expansion. She facilitates the Trees for Wilmington Coalition's efforts to increase and protect tree canopy and to plant 20,000 trees by 2020. She holds bachelor's degrees in sociology and horticulture and is pursuing graduate work in public administration with a GIS and urban forestry focus. Thanks for being with us today, Jen.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today to share a little bit about the projects that we're doing here at the Delaware Center for Horticulture. And just assuming that most of you or some of you are not familiar with the Delaware Center for Horticulture, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about us. Okay, there we go. We are located in Wilmington, Delaware, and we were founded in 1977. So we do a lot of different things besides urban forestry, including community gardens, roadside beautification, public landscaping, we have an urban farm, parks improvements, and lots of educational programs. As Leland mentioned, I work in our urban forestry program. I've been here about 5 years, and I'll be talking to you a little bit today about a lot of the different things that we do in our tree program, and specifically how we engage staff and volunteers in the non-planting season to advance some of the urban forestry goals in the city. Just a little bit of background about our tree program. We have a lot of different activities that we do, and some of these pictures represent them here. I'm sure they look familiar. I'm sure you have pictures just like this in your files. But we work predominantly to connect people to plants, and in this case, connect people to trees. So we do a lot of tree plantings. We have a bare root tree initiative, and also try to work as much as possible to create a sustainable urban forest through good management practices and volunteer stewardship. We've planted over 7,500 trees since 1982, and I'll talk about a program that we have in a little bit, but we are able to plant a lot more trees now. So because of that, we're looking for new and creative ways to engage volunteers, which I will touch on in just a moment. We also have we also have a return to work program, which is one of the ways that we get a lot of the trees in the ground, as well as provide green jobs training to individuals who are exiting the correction system and looking for a job placement, as well as just many tree plantings. Just to follow up on Meredith's presentation, the bottom picture here is a photo of tree planting in a parking lot to try to address heat mitigation. So we do a lot of different things here related to trees, and today I'm going to do a little bit of a survey about how we are engaging people and doing things in the off-season. So one of the big areas that we work in is urban forest management and advancement, and we're really trying to strengthen our relationship with the city thanks to a federal stimulus grant from the Northeast Area State and Private Forestry U.S. Forest Service. We were able to hire an urban forest administrator. She works out of the Department of Public Works in the city, and together we're working on a lot of the goals listed here, including adopting a revised tree ordinance, better sharing of information and tracking, creating a management plan and canopy goals for the city, as well as public education and engaging of tree stewards. So one way we do this, and one way we can engage people who are more interested in, say, the advocacy and planning work, is through the Trees for Wilmington Coalition. This is an advisory coalition that was started through a grant from the National Urban and Community Forestry Advisory Council, and it's made up of a number of stakeholders, including city representatives, volunteer tree stewards, and other representatives of sister organizations and other environmental groups, such as the University of Delaware. I put a link here. I won't go into all the details today, but if you're interested in more information, please visit that link to read more about the Trees for Wilmington Coalition in the Our Urban Forest Report. But this is a great way that we can engage people in the non-planting season to help do things like come to the City Council meeting and advocate for passage of the new ordinance and come out in support. So volunteers are really critical to that work, especially from the constituent perspective in letting the city and the government officials know that there is support there. One of our other initiatives related to Trees for Wilmington is our Say Yes to Free Trees program. And this is also funded through a grant from the Northeast Area State and Private Forestry, and it's allowed us to plant a lot more trees than we used to be able to. So what we're doing through this program is members of the Return to Work crew are planting trees with a local contractor and with the Delaware Center for Horticulture, and we're offering 7 to 12-foot trees. We have about 15 varieties that we offer. And so our goal is we needed to get the word out into the community just to let people know that this opportunity existed. So one way that we engage volunteers in the off-season and the planting season is to help distribute these flyers to community centers, door-to-door, basically any way that volunteers or civic leaders are willing and able to help spread the word. So a lot of civic leaders have stepped up to help get these forms out to civic meetings and to their constituents. And just to give you an idea of Wilmington, if you're not familiar with us, we're a smaller city. We have about 70,000 residents and about a 12% tree canopy. So we are looking for ways to increase the tree canopy. And one of the ways that we've been planning to do this is through the development of priority planting areas. So with the help of the Trees for Wilmington Coalition, we came up, and through an intern at the University of Delaware, who's now the current urban forest administrator that I mentioned, we came up with what we thought were the most important criteria to determine where to focus on our tree plantings. And those two factors, and it's probably a little hard for you to see the picture here, but basically what we did is through GIS and through data that we had about median household income as well as the existing tree canopy in the city, we prioritized those areas and came up with a combined map that I'll show you in a moment. But the rationale behind this was to, one, get more trees in the city where there are less trees currently, and two, because residents in the city of Wilmington are responsible for the maintenance of their trees in the right-of-way. What we see is along income lines in neighborhoods that are lower income, the trees are less taken care of. So we're trying to bring resources to where there currently are not. And so this was through a lot of discussion and through the volunteer help of the Trees for Wilmington, we were able to come up with these maps. And what you're looking at right now is the combined map. So it's, I'll back up one here, it's taking the median household income and number of people per tree, and it's combining it into one citywide map, so we would have a starting place to be able to use these maps as a tool for where we would like to plant trees, or where we're the top priority to plant trees. So I would like to emphasize that this is just a tool to give us a starting place, but we do strive to support trees in all areas of the city. So to follow up on that, what we've wanted to do since we developed those priority areas was get on the ground, get out there in the community, and figure out how to let people know, how to encourage people in all areas of the city to plant trees. So as I mentioned, we're focusing on areas with less tree canopy. There's a photo of that here. And we're accomplishing this through a new initiative that's actually starting. It's in the process of starting right now. We have a number of volunteers lined up. And there's a photo here of a door hanger that we are going to have volunteers go to these priority neighborhoods and leave them on the door to inform them of the trees that we have available. And we also wanted to make it as easy as possible for them to return the card to sign up for a free tree. So what they can do is just detach the postcard. There is a backside to this door hanger, but basically the bottom here is a postcard that they can return and sign up for a free tree. We do ask for a stamp because we are asking that people will help water the trees. So we'd like to see some kind of commitment to, assuring that these trees stay maintained. So who are these volunteers? They're Delaware Center for Horticulture volunteers that we've been working with for a long time who are interested in helping out. There are volunteer tree stewards throughout the city who regularly advocate for trees in their community or write grants for their community. We're also partnering with the University of Delaware, and they have many programs related to community outreach in the city. So we were able to include tree canvassing in those efforts, as well as local residents from the neighborhoods who are interested in seeing trees planted in their community. And just wanted to touch on a couple other things that volunteers and staff are helping to do in the off-season that is pretty crucial, especially as we're planting more trees than we used to. It's getting harder to monitor them and keep track of them. So we have a volunteer who's going around and checking the trees to help warn us ahead of time if there are problems, if drought stress is noticed, for example, so we can try to be proactive about communicating with the homeowners about how to properly take care of their tree. We do send out watering reminders, but it's good to try to keep an eye on the tree and let people know how they can best take care of them. And we also have, as part of our return to work crew that I mentioned, a person who will be doing watering throughout the summer to help make sure these trees survive as well. And just a picture here of a tag that we actually put on each tree, and it lets the resident or the community or anyone who's walking by the tree, first of all, know who planted the tree, see basic care instructions, and also we write the name of the tree on the tag so people know what it is. So that's something else that volunteers are helping us with by writing the tags out for us to match them up to the species and also to place them on the tree. So that is a quick survey of all the ways that we're engaging staff and volunteers in the off-season, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thanks very much, Jen, for doing that. Fran, if you want to open up the lines and remind us again how to ask questions.
Again, please press star then 1 anytime if you need your line open.
And again, I'll remind people that you can use the Q&A button at the top of your screen to ask questions over the web if you don't want to do it over the phone. And then I'll bring them up here on the line. Jen, I was impressed by it looked like those tree tags there at the end. Those look new.
They are new.
The program you guys have done before, and have you seen success with it?
We actually just started using them this spring, and that's also part of the grant program that I mentioned from the Northeast Forest Service and part of the free tree program. So through that grant, we were able to purchase both the door hangers for the canvassing as well as the tree tags. And we have received great feedback from them because people have said that in the past they've seen the trees go in the ground and never really knew who planted them. So this is, they knew who to call if they were interested in getting a tree planted on their property, or to just find out what the tree is and not have to figure out who to track down to get an answer. So we've received good feedback, and so far they haven't blown away. They're staying in place and where they're supposed to.
That's great. And is there, did you say there's care information on there?
There is. It's two-sided. So on the back side with the name of the tree, there's basic information about watering and mulching. Great.
I think listening to you guys and seeing things that our groups are doing across the country, I think tree care is an area that there's a lot of opportunity for our members during the off-season, especially considering the economic climate right now for city departments that sometimes aren't quite managing to do all of the maintenance. It's a good chance to partner up with your city to be able to, you can access your volunteers and get them to go out and help with the mulching and the watering. That could be a great partnership.
Right.
And then, Jen, I guess my one question about how you're planning on tying some of the outreach that you're doing now into the larger city or Trees for Wilmington project?
In terms of the management and urban forestry goals? Well, actually, some of the members of Trees for Wilmington have signed up to participate in the canvassing. And actually, the canvassing effort is part of the Trees for Wilmington canopy goal that we've set to plant 20,000 trees by 2020. So that is tied in there. And then we're also in the process of actually expanding or evolving the Trees for Wilmington Coalition to invite additional partners to participate. So we're hoping, possibly through identifying some of the volunteers through the canvassing effort, there may be some tree stewards who are also willing to serve and participate in the Trees for Wilmington Coalition.
Great. Fran, do we have any questions on the line?
No, not on the phone lines.
Okay. One question from the web. Jen, is Wilmington a Tree City, USA?
We are. We are a Tree City, USA, and we just celebrated at our Arbor Day celebration this spring.
Great. Well, unless there are other questions on the line, I'm going to go ahead and ask another. This is actually for Meredith. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, great. For the using the meters that you used, was that I guess those weren't on hand, were they? Or did you guys purchase them?
We did purchase those, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they're about $40 or $50 a piece. So we have a group of like 10, I think we have about 10 of those laser thermometers that we can either take them out to work with a group. You know, you could have several people using them at the same time in different parts of the community, or even just with one. You can really do a lot just with one and have people checking them out at different times.
Great. And I remember that the results that you guys got were pretty impressive with that. Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, most of the readings were in the 20 to 30s degrees difference, the average differences in those 5 locations that I talked about. I think the parking lot showed the most dramatic. It was 39 degrees difference, the most dramatic reading, and I think that came from a parking lot. But really, you know, maybe surprisingly, even park areas and lawn areas that are grass covered and not parking lots, they even showed like 20 degrees difference. So there were some pretty dramatic readings in all of those types of locations.
Yeah, it's impressive, and again, it's an easily replicable way to demonstrate the impact that shade trees are having on your city that anyone could do in any town. So thanks for sharing a little bit more about that with us.
You're welcome.
All right, Fran, any others on the queue?
No, sir, I have no questions.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for participating and listening in on this webcast today. The presentations, the recorded session, and the resource list will be available in about 1 week, and I will email everyone who completes our survey, which I'll put up right here. I'll email you all those elements and make them available to you. So please take 2 seconds to complete the survey that you can see up on the screen there. Our next webcast session is Climate Change Impacts, Water and Rain Harvesting, and that's going to be on July 1st. So I want to thank everyone for attending today, and a special thanks to our presenters, Meredith and Jen, and to our sponsors, the Home Depot Foundation and the USDA Forest Service. Thanks, everybody.
Again, thank you, everyone, for your participation today. As the call has concluded, all lines may disconnect.